Hi, I'm Dr. Richard Visser, and in this podcast, I will take you on a journey through the wilderness of scientific research and experiential knowledge. Together, we will clear a path to optimizing health, well-being, and longevity. I am a former Minister of Health and Sports with a PhD in medical sciences, a published researcher in the fields of obesity, lifestyle medicine, and longevity. I started my career path over 3 decades ago as a doctor of chiropractic. I'm excited to share my methods, know-how, and experience with you. So please join me on the Visser podcast. Welcome to the Visser podcast. This is episode 10, Mitigating Stress and Anxiety. This is key. We've all experienced stress in our lives, from everyday stress. Biological, physiological, psychological stress, bacterial infections, viral infections. You get a cut. These are all stresses that happen. Something happens to your child, family crisis, home, finances. A speech in front of 1,000 people, meeting your boss, asking for a raise, you name it. These are all stressors. And really what we're doing is we're categorizing them in 3 types, okay? So you have short-term stressors, which are good for you, and we'll explain why. Medium-term stress, these are the ones we need to work on and kind of elevate our threshold, our stress threshold. So we'll have really good stuff there. And then long-term stress, bad, no bueno, okay? So long-term stress really can cause mental illness. It can cause shrinking of the brain. It has effect on the myelin, the hippocampus, the gray and white matter. Damaging. PTSD, all these chronic illnesses that can come from long-term stress. So we're going to look at that very closely and see. So the one thing I think with stress is that, which is going to surprise you, is that the body and the mind doesn't know the difference between a biological stress or a psychological stress. So it can't tell the difference. It has one generic reaction to it, to any of these stresses. It's the same reaction. It's just the length that makes it different, and that can cause issues to our body and to our mind and to our brains. So stress is a system that mobilizes certain things in the brain, which create a response in the body. Okay, and basically it's comes back from hunter-gatherers, way back, where we needed to fight or to flee. So the fight or flight reaction. And so, as you know, we have a system that activates this. Now, the good news is this. We also have a system built in to deactivate it. So one of the things that we're going to learn here, and I think the most important thing, is the tools to deactivate that system. And the tools to deactivate that system, trust me, is different than you think. It's not talking positive to yourself. It's not giving you affirming messages. It's not going to work. It's not telling you can do this and then you can do it. No. Okay? That is work for another area, and it has its place and its time, but not in stress. Not in when we have real-time stress, meaning I'm stressed out right now. I need to do something about it. It's not going to help. Talking to myself is not going to help. Talking to my brain is not going to help. Trying to, calm myself, it's not going to help. It's only going to make it worse. So there are triggers that we can use. So first we need to talk a little bit about the mechanisms that cause the stress, or how the stress happens to our body, so that we can then talk about the mechanisms that do the opposite. Okay? So when we look at, and I said this before, that the body and the mind, the brain, doesn't recognize the difference between what type of stress. Stress is stress, okay? It's blind to what type of stress is coming in. So what happens when we get stressed? Okay, the sympathetic chain ganglia, which is kind of in the middle of the body right here, and it's the sympathetic nervous system. Okay, the sympathetic chain ganglia, middle of the body, gets activated, releases acetylcholine, okay, which triggers the postganglionic neurons to release epinephrine or, adrenaline, get your body, and this is getting your body ready to, go. And how does it get your body ready to go? Well, because it's very specific the way it's releasing this. It's releasing this in overflow to the heart and legs. All right, so that your heart can pump and your legs can get you going out of there, because that's your motor. So how does it do that? Well, it does this by vasodilating the arteries that go directly to the heart. So the blood that goes from the heart to the legs, it vasodilates. It vasodilates everything around the heart, and from the heart moving to the legs. And vasoconstricts everything else. So all of a sudden you get dry mouth because you're nervous. So, there's very little blood flow going to your salivary glands. They're not working, they're shut down. So everything that isn't needed for fight or flight gets shut down. It's very interesting the way the body does this. So this is with the response, and that's why when we get this type of response, our brain stops thinking. We're not clear anymore. We get speech issues, stuttering. We don't know what to say. We blank out. Whatever. When we get into stress situations, or we just freeze. Our body freezes even. This can happen because of this response. We need to know what's happening. What do we need to do? And we're gonna go through our first tool. Okay, this is our first tool. First tool is, okay, we need to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Why? Because that's the opposite of the sympathetic. The sympathetic was activated because of stress. With the parasympathetic, we can do the opposite, and it means you're affecting, where's the parasympathetic nerves? Cranial nerves, eyes, face, breathing, the jaw. And we know when we're in stress, all these tighten up, all these clamp up. So the first tool we're gonna get is called the psychological sigh. And really, Jack Feldman from UCLA wrote a whole bunch of stuff, did a lot of research in this field. He's kind of the guy that, coined this and looked at it in depth for the first time. So look at his work. Basically what it means is, how does this mechanism work of the psychological sigh? Okay, so what we're trying to do here is we're trying to tell the brain to calm down, to calm our heart rate down, okay? Adrenaline is in our body and it's streaming in our body, so the energy is there, but we need to control our heart rate. So how do we do this? Well, there's a way to physically do this to trick the brain, because the brain is sending go, go, go. And so what can we do? We activate the sympathetic nervous system by long exhales. What we're doing with long exhales is we're taking our diaphragm and pushing it up, okay? When our diaphragm pushes up, we constrict the real estate around our heart. And when we constrict the real estate around our heart gets more pressure. That more pressure sends signals to the brain and says, listen, there's enough blood pressure there. We're pumping hard enough. We need to cool it down. We need to drop the heart rate down. That's the message that comes back from the brain to the heart. So by limiting the real estate around the heart, we're able to send this message up to the brain. And then in turn, the brain sends the message down to the heart, calm down. So we're able to calm the heart this way. The opposite would be inhaling deeply, which is naturally what you want to do, or what you're naturally going to be doing, which creates more real estate in the heart, which tells the heart to even pump harder because there's less pressure. So the messages keep going to the brain, go, 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 go. I want to stop that, okay? So how do we do this? Well, physically how we do it is by doing 2 inhales and then long exhale. And so what's happening there is we're also, because of the two short exhales, you might say, well, it's a lot of breath going in. No, it's not. You're doing two, you're stopping. You're actually also kind of replumping or re-inflating the alveoli, which is a little, in your lungs. So it's a very good thing. It's a very healthy thing to do for your lungs also. But by doing this and by doing that long exhale, that message gets sent that the real estate is small and that the heart has enough pressure and that needs to be lowered. So this is number one, and it's called the psychological sign. Critical. Now you know the pathway and know what happens and why it happens. So it'll take about 20 to 30 seconds to calm down in real time. And what you've achieved now is you have the perfect state of alertness because you got adrenaline running, and at the same time you can think and you can do what you need to do. You have you're not freaking out. You've got your heart rate under control. You can talk again normally. Your jaw is loose. Your facial expressions are loose. Your eyes are, gazing where they need to be. They're not kind of tunnel visioned. So you're ready to do your speech. Okay, so when you speak, remember, if this is a speech you're giving to a lot of people, remember to keep breathing there. Okay, once you're giving the speech, because one of the things that we do is we stop breathing and just start talking. That can again start the response. And reason we ask, so why do we have an improvement in our speech where the parafacial nucleus being activated during the long exhale? So you have the whole parafacial nucleus with all the nerves being, so your jaw is relaxed, your vocal cords are relaxed, your throat's relaxed, everything's relaxed, and you can actually normally talk again without having these jitters of stress. So that was one. So with a bacterial or viral infection, we get a good short-term stress because we need it, right? And when we get this short-term stress, it's like this boost, like, oh God, we're being attacked. So what happens? The spleen releases killer T cells to defend the body against foreign invaders. Adrenaline, of course, is released in the body to the rapid movement of the diaphragm. And so this is, and again, key here, rapid movement of the diaphragm. So this is a response to a stress coming from bacteria or a viral infection or a cut or whatever. So when we know that we've been exposed or we feel weak or we feel like we're getting sick or we feel like I'm not feeling good, this is a good thing to activate. So how do we activate it? We activate it by quick breathing. And this is, they've coined this, the Wim Hof method or the Tumo breathing. And what it is rapid movement of the diaphragm. So you're breathing in and out quickly. Now, don't do this by water. Do this with someone near you that can check you so you don't have shallow water blackouts or anything like that, and you don't pass out. But this activates, again, the spleen responds to, flush the body with killer T cells, adrenaline to get going, and really to fight off any invaders, bacterial, viral, that are in your body. So you really get your body's immune system cranked up. So this is a great one. So this is number two. We can do it in reverse to activate our immune system. So let's go. I think that was for the short-term stress, and we looked at two things in the short-term stress. One is actual physical stress, and then the biological stress and how we can induce it, because normally it happens by itself. But if we can feel it coming on and our body isn't reacting right away, we can activate our body to do that response, and that is something a tool that we need to make use of. So that was our second tool. Let's go into medium-term stress. So medium-term stress, we're talking about like a week, weeks, months of stress, and this could be related to your job, related to a task you need to complete, related to exams that you're studying for, board exams, whatever. It can be related to death in the family, numerous things. one of the family members need to go to rehab. I mean, you're stressed, whatever. It's this stress that has a beginning, but will end sometime, and it's caused from the outside. It's not just a stress that you can't pinpoint where it's coming from. So this is called medium-term stress. And really what we need to be doing in medium-term stress is placing ourselves in deliberate situations to raise our stress threshold. So this is like going to the gym, all right, for the brain. And how do we do this? How do we take our brain to the gym so that we can train ourselves to take on more stress and not just completely lose it when this medium-term stress comes, where we can still function at a high level, stay healthy while we're dealing with this stress? Well, this is number 3. A couple of things. One, I think that the easiest one is cold showers, like really cold. If you decide you're taking a shower, the last minute of your shower, you just dump the cold, whatever you can handle, the most you can handle, or it's super uncomfortable, you want to leave, but you stay in. As I said before, the brain and the body doesn't differentiate between stresses. So this cold water is the same stress it sees it as the same stress as bacterial, viral, or a speech that you're going to be giving and you're freaking out. So it's the same type of thing. The other thing is HIIT training, so HIIT trainings, and you can look those up. I'll do a podcast on that too. But really getting your body to go into stress, your heart rate goes up and then lower it back down. Go up again, lower it back down. Go up again, lower it back down. And after a while, you get used to that. You get more used to it. And then finally, cold immersion. So really, we talked about a protocol of 11 minutes a week, 3 minutes at a time of real cold immersion, whatever you can handle to the max. And that trains your body to deal with a higher level of stress. So we're raising our stress threshold. One of the other things I want you to do, because this is normally what happens is your heart rate goes up, your pupils dilate to cause tunnel vision. These are all what happens when the stress comes in, when you're going into cold. Okay, I want you to deliberately be opening your gaze, okay? Dilating your gaze, looking around, deliberate. Train yourself to do this in that state. So you're disassociating the mind from the body, and you're starting to be comfortable at higher states of stress. Okay, this medium-term stress is really indicative of what we go through in life. This is what we deal with. And the better we can manage it, the better we get through life, the more effective we are, the more efficient we are, the better we handle situations. Because as we know, the only constant in life is change, and change is stressful. And the more we train ourselves to handle that, the better we are. Okay. The next one that we're going to look at is the bad one. It's the long-term stress. This is a dangerous one. This is a killer. Okay. So one of the immediate like clues or red flags that you should have is that if you're not sleeping well, or you're not sleeping deep enough, or you're sleeping troubled sleeping, this is one of the indications that you might have long-term stress. Okay, you don't want your heart rate to be chronically high or chronically low. Either one is bad. Okay, chronic hypertension causes heart disease. We want to modulate this. Okay, so number 4 hack or thing that we need to do is really going back to the foundation work. And this is in all the episodes before this one. It's about getting the right exercise, getting the right nutrition in there, taking care of your gut biome, because we know the gut biome, one of the things, tryptophan turns it into serotonin. Serotonin is the happy hormone, okay? We need this serotonin. So if your gut biome isn't working optimally, guess what? You're gonna have problems with depression and not feeling well. And this is gonna actually help induce the long-term stress. So look at this. Number five, so you did the basics. We got the basics. Number five hack that we need to do with the long-term stress is good sleep. We really need to focus on good sleep. And I'm going to have an episode after this one just on sleep, because sleep is just huge. It's big, it's important. It's a power that we need to harness. And the way we live now is not allowing us to get proper sleep. So, but we'll talk about that. So, good sleep, that's your hack. Um, 45 minutes of direct sunlight in a day. Get outside, not through a window, but outside in the sun. Okay. Definitely do some vitamin D in your vitamin and your supplement protocol. It is super important. And number six is our social connection. And we see this. This is a game changer. It's a serotonin boost, which is a neuromodulator that gives us the feeling of good. It's enough. I feel good. I feel happy. And serotonin is released in the brain when we see someone we like, when we do something we like, when we're with our pets. That's why pets have such a good influence on us. So it's key. Social connection is key. When we look at the blue zones where people live to be over 100 years old, and we're looking at Loma Linda, Okinawa, Japan, we're looking at places in Latin America, we're looking like at a place in Sardinia. There's a couple of places where this happens. The social connection of the people that live to be over 100, and I'm talking with a nice high quality of life. Their social connection is primordial. I mean, that's key. They have, they feel that they add to their social circles. They have social circles. They connect socially every day with people, with their families. Doesn't need to be families, could be friends, around people, just saying hi to people, being social. This is huge. We see now in this digital age, that a lot of the kids and a lot of people are kind of starting to, especially after COVID, people don't want to go to work anymore, rather stay home, have gotten into this lifestyle of ordering in. I can order everything to my house. I don't ever have to leave my house. And so you get this thing of your space is becoming smaller, and lo and behold, you want less people around. You're not comfortable with people. You lose your social skills, so that even kind of justifies or magnifies that you need to be alone, and you start developing this molecule called tachykinone. You don't want that. Okay, bad. Okay, this is when it's a sinister molecule that with people with lack of connection, it basically takes you to a dark place, isolation, irritability, just all the stuff you get when you just start hunkering down, you and your computer or you and your digital media. So we really need to get out. It's good for our health, well-being, and especially longevity. We know this now. So force yourself to get this social connection, even after this whole COVID thing that's still going on, and this scare that we got about being social, and distancing ourselves from our workspace, from people, from family. Get back into it. It's a huge connect. So let's talk about some compounds that are off the shelf, natural, that we could make use of to help us if we're seeing this. By the way, if you have long-term stress, seek a professional. Go to a psychologist, go to a psychiatrist, seek a professional to deal with this, because it is dangerous. Like we said in the beginning, this could shrink your brain. It could have long-term damage. It could have permanent damage, with your white and gray matter, your axons. It could lead to all kinds of diseases. So don't, and mental illness. So don't let it go. Deal with it. Okay, if these things, if you're beyond using what we talked about here, go see a professional and start there. One of the things that you could look at in using is ashwagandha. It lowers anxiety and cortisol and cholesterol. Can reduce depression. So this is a natural product that you can use. Theanine is another one. It reduces chronic stress and anxiety a bit. And there's one more which I kind of want to stay away of, but I'm going to mention it: melatonin. Just because with chronic use you can get adrenal dysfunction. So be careful with this one. Only use it very lightly when you go to bed if you're going to use it. I prefer not. We have melatonin in our body. It's what kind of triggers our sleep cycles. And so I'll talk about this in the next episode because we're going to talk about sleep. But to really bring it in from outside, I'm not a big fan of that. So I think one of the other things I wanted to talk about before we end this is emotions. What is an emotion? In psychology and in neuroscience, we have a great book. It's called How Emotions Are Made. Look it up. The author is Lisa somehow. I'll put it in the description below. When our internal state is matched to the reality or the demands of reality, then we're at a balance. Okay. If it's unmatched, then we feel bad. Okay. So this is where the emotions come from. We have to learn to be responsive, not reactive. We have to learn how to modulate reactivity in real time. So the objective psychology has a place here. We need tools and not trying to fix the brain. Okay, so really the tools that we talked about, these are tools that work and they have mechanisms that work, and it's a biological effect in the body that is the reason, and that's why we explained it that way. We need to be controlling the internal landscape, and so that's what we're focusing on with the stress here. A lot of us have done work in meditation, in breath work, in new age thinking, new age practices. That's not going to help here. Okay, this in real time, we need to know what the body does. We need to know the mechanisms inside the body and be able to counter it. Work with our parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system and know when to shift so we can start learning to control the internal environment. So these are your 6 that can do that. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Hit the bell notification. See you in the next episode.